In this episode, it's all about the New York Marathon. Also, I'm going to share a few words and my opinions about something that came up this week in the ultra running community. So don't go anywhere. Welcome to Martha Runs the World, a podcast with a new take on running, fitness, and all things health-oriented. I'm Martha Hughes, your host, and each week I present a new topic that is of interest to all runners. Hi, and welcome to episode 250 of Martha Runs the World. Thank you so much for joining me. The New York Marathon has its 51st start this next weekend, and I thought it would be great to talk about it, talk about its history, talk about its logistics, and all the fun things about the marathon and why it's so popular and the route, all that stuff. Although the New York City Marathon has become a crucial part of the city's culture, it's only been around since 1970. Before that, though, there were a number of marathons of varying fame that inspired the last of the world marathon majors, and there are only a few marathon majors, those being New York, Boston, Chicago, Berlin, and Tokyo. I think that's all. London. So there's six major marathons. And people are always trying to get them because if you run in all six, you get this huge medal, and it's a prestige thing. And they're all difficult to get into, some more difficult than others. Even before New York had any major marathons, the Boston Marathon began in 1897, inspired by the reintroduction of the marathon at the 1896 Athens Olympics. And you can check out my episode on Boston that was done previously. It took New York another decade to arrange a marathon of its own in 1907, the Yonkers Marathon, and it became this country's second oldest marathon. On Thanksgiving Day, runners lined up in the cold to race the long and winding Winchester Trail, even though it was a mere 25 miles, thus making it not a true marathon. Nonetheless, the race was won by Johnny Hayes, an assistant in the sporting goods department at Bloomingdale's. How very New York, right? Who trained on the roof of the department store and even became the manager of the department after the win. Hayes would go on to win the Olympic gold and set the world record. The Yonkers Marathon still exists today, and it had over 100 finishers in 2019. After the 1908 Olympics, runners across the U.S. were eager to put on their own marathons, and New York became one of the leading marathon centers. The first marathon to take place in New York City proper was sponsored by the New York Evening Journal. Taking place the day after Christmas in 1908, the race began in Rye, Winchester, and followed the Boston Post route to Pelham Bay Park, after which runners made their way down to Columbus Circle. The winner of that marathon, Matthew Maloney, would later compete in a 1909 marathon at the Polo Grounds, often nicknamed Manhattan Derby. As many as 25,000 people and many more in Times Square awaiting the news were in the crowds that day. The grand prize was $10,000, or about $300,000 today. That same year, there was a marathon inside the second Madison Square Garden. The organizers constructed a track inside measuring 1/10 of a mile, or 262 laps around, but this marathon did not achieve anywhere near the acclaim of the Yonkers course. It was a few years before the next official yearly marathon took place, and there was a number of modified marathons, including a 12-mile run from Fordham Road to City Hall in 1912, a 15-mile race in Coney Island in February 1922, and a 16-mile race from Worth Street in modern-day Tribeca to 225th Street. There were a handful of others, such as one in 1926 ending at City Hall and another in 1928, concluding at Luna Park. In 1925, the Port Chester Marathon, which began at Columbus Circle, became a yearly tradition extending until 1941. According to New York City Parks, a runner at the 1933 iteration was hit by a car, but was still able to complete that entire race. That's hardcore. With the early success of the Port Chester Marathon came the 1927 Long Beach Marathon, won by Hopi Native American runner Kwanawahu, after a Long Island Railroad train temporarily delayed the competition. Albert Michelson. All of these marathons, plus one in 1948 in Queens, led to the development of the New York City Marathon, which itself took inspiration from the Cherry Tree Marathon in Bronx that for 12 years occurred on George Washington's birthday. The first New York City Marathon was perhaps not as exciting and sightseeing friendly as the previous ones, which traversed in all the other boroughs. The New York Roadrunners, NYRR, organized the first iteration with just 127 competitors and a few dozen spectators. Runners would simply pace themselves running loops around Central Park's Park Drive. The first New York City Marathon was organized by the group, the New York Roadrunners, and it took place September 13th, 1970. There was an entry fee of $1 and a budget of $1,000 for the whole race. Of the 127 registered runners, there were 55 finishers. At that time, it was marred by rampant vandalism, drugs were sold openly at Bethesda Fountain, and graffiti defaced most of its buildings. The park's dangers were so well known that any mention of a nighttime stroll there was a surefire laugh line on the Johnny Carson show. Johnny Carson was a late-night talk show host like David Letterman was, and all those today, Jay Leno, and okay, you might not know who he is either if you're a younger listener. Yet the race directors Fred LeBeau and Vince Chiappetta knew that Mayor John Lindsay was eager to restore the park to its former glory, so they put together the inaugural New York City Marathon that September. The humble race attracted just 127 starters, as said, and only one woman, Nina Kushik. But nevertheless, it established an important theme, revival and resilience, that has run through all subsequent New York City marathons. So in 1976, when George Spitz, a civil servant and runner, proposed a marathon through all 5 boroughs, the time seemed almost right, if daunting. A race like that could cost $15,000, Fred LeBeau pointed out. Where are we going to get that kind of money? But Mr. Spitz won over Manhattan's borough president, Percy Sutton, who persuaded Louis and Jack Rudin, brothers from a prominent real estate family, to put up $25,000. That was the turning point. The 1975 New York City Marathon gains attention at the U.S. Women's Championship. With 339 finishers, the race is seen to be outgrowing Central Park. In a meeting with Mayor Abe Beame, Mr. Spitz, Mr. LeBeau, and the others pitched the marathon at a one-time attraction like Bicentennial's tall ship events, another thing that happened at that time. They told the mayor a 5-borough race might help receive a nearly bankrupt, crime-ridden city. He agreed. Yeah, New York in the 70s was not a good place to be. It was very dangerous. Mr. LeBeau, a Romanian-born Holocaust survivor who had been churning out knockoffs in the garment district, now found his life's calling. He asked the soft-spoken Ted Corbett, an Olympic marathoner and first president of the New York Roadrunners Club, to design the course with a finish in Central Park. To celebrate the United States bicentennial, the 1976 New York City Marathon takes place through all 5 boroughs of New York City. And that would be Staten Island, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Manhattan, and Queens. It would have 2,090 entrants with 1,549 finishers. The race garners an international headlines, with winners Bill Rogers and Mickey Gorman shattering the event records. Rogers will win 4 consecutive times from 1976 to 79. Running her first marathon, Norwegian Olympic track star Greta Waitz sets a world record of 2 hours, 32 minutes, and 30 seconds at the 1978 New York City Marathon. She smashes her own record the following year at 2 hours, 27 minutes, and 33 seconds, the first sub-2 hour, 30-minute women's marathon. And I'll talk about Greta in a separate show sometime in the future. NCAA cross-country champion Alberto Salazar wins the 1980 New York City Marathon in 2 hours, 9 minutes, and 41 seconds at the time, the fastest debut by American. He wins again in 1981 and 1982. ABC airs the New York City Marathon for the first time in 1981. The national broadcast will continue through 1993. And I really miss old-time TV. I really do. I hate the fact that everything is cable now. And if you don't have a TV and paid cable, you can't watch these events live. I don't have a TV. I don't have cable. So I can never watch these marathons live. They don't show them anywhere. I'm not going to pay for cable just to watch a race live. So I never get to see these races anymore. Anywhere. If I don't pay for the station, if I don't pay for cable, I don't get to see them. Gone are those days. And it's really sad. I really miss, I should talk about that one day on the show. But I do miss how television used to be run in that regards anyway. The New York City Marathon field nearly doubles during the decade, from 12,512 finishers in 1980 to 24,659 finishers in 1989, and it will keep growing. LeBeau passed away in 1994, and Alan Steinfeld succeeds him as the new race director. The 2000 New York City Marathon includes the first ever wheelchair division, and prize money is added in 2001. And in 2001, New York City Marathon takes place less than 2 months after the 9/11 attacks, symbolizing hope and recovery from a devastated city and nation. And I think it was really important for them to continue the marathon because it meant so much to the people of New York that they don't stop it, that they can't stop it, that they are resilient. It was a very important time, and I remember that. It was very moving to watch the marathon take place, even after such great loss, such pain, and such sorrow, that something hopeful can actually happen. I remember that. That was amazing. Marathon world record holder Paula Radcliffe of Great Britain wins the 2004 New York City Marathon, and she would win 2 additional titles in 2007 and 2008. In 2006, the New York City Marathon joins the Boston, Chicago, London, and Berlin marathons in the World Marathon Majors. Tokyo is added in 2013, and Abbott becomes the series title sponsor in 2014. In 2009, the New York City Marathon has 43,660 finishers, the most ever of any marathon, and that's the year that Meb Keflezighi wins the men's open division, becoming the first American champion since 1982. In 2011, New York City Marathon sees Jeffrey Mutai of Kenya set a still-standing event record of 2 hours, 5 minutes, and 6 seconds. In 2012, the New York City Marathon is canceled in the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy. Thousands of runners take part in relief and recovery efforts around the city, and the New York Road Running Association contributes funds, equipment, and supplies to support. And that's how New Yorkers do it. They help out each other. In times of great troubles, they really do pull together and they help out each other. And so do runners. So this was a time of, again, great pain and loss, but everyone came together to help. At the 2017 New York City Marathon, Shalane Flanagan becomes the first American women's open division in 40 years. And in 2019, they had 53,600 finishers, making it, again, the largest marathon in history. And I think that's the most that the marathon has had over the years. Last year, they had 47,800 finishers, so they haven't quite gotten that many. Oh, and that was from 131 different countries. So they haven't quite gotten back to the 2019 numbers, but I'm sure they will again soon. Now, the race does go through all 5 boroughs. It doesn't spend as much time in each borough, but it does cover each borough and does go through each one. It starts on Staten Island. It doesn't spend a lot of time there. However, as a runner, you do spend a lot of time there before the race. You'll wait there a long time before it starts. And I do mean a long time. The course crosses a lot of bridges, so there's plenty of elevation gain and loss. The first bridge is the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. Right off the bridge, you step into Brooklyn. You'll spend a lot of time in Brooklyn, going straight up north and eventually crossing into Queens. Then, for the first of 2 times, the race crosses into Manhattan using the Ed Koch Queensboro Bridge, also covering briefly Roosevelt Island. Off the bridge, the race turns right onto First Avenue going north, crossing the Willis Avenue Bridge into the Bronx, where it stays for a short while until crossing the Madison Avenue Bridge back into Manhattan. The race does cross 4 bridges in total. Then the final part of the race is making the long miles back down south to Central Park, where it ends at the southwest end of the park. So you go all the way back through the park, and then it ends along the bottom part of the park. There are plenty of hydration tables along the course, plenty of places. You don't really need to bring your own water. You don't really need to bring your own food unless you don't want to eat anything on the course. You bring your own, then your own nutrition if you need something that they don't provide. The streets reopen after 7 hours from the final wave, but there are no mandatory sweeps. Participants have finished long after 7 hours. The president of the race also stays at the finish line until every entry is passed, unless they give up and they can't finish. Just like Fred Lebow did. The roads are opened so that those taking a longer time are told to move to the sidewalks. Each year, about 2.5 million spectators line the race. Runners shouldn't listen to music on the course, for the sounds of the crowd are too much fun to miss. You'll hear cheering, parties on the steps of dozens of brownstones, those older apartment buildings lining the course, and there'll be lots of live music, including bands, percussionists, DJs, all kinds of stuff. There will be so much stuff. You don't want to miss it by listening to music. The weather during the race can vary wildly from freezing to raining to warm. It's advised to wear clothes you can just toss at the starting area because you will be there a long time. So you want to stay warm if it's chilly, but the day may warm up. And that brings up some logistics. It takes about 12,000 volunteers to make the race successful. So many people give their whole day or the days before leading up to the race just to make it happen. To move so many runners who are staying mostly in Manhattan and Brooklyn, it takes a lot of buses. Lots of vehicles make it happen. The Staten Island ferry that runs from Manhattan to Staten Island, free, doesn't cost you anything to take it, can't handle everyone. So the buses start bringing runners over hours before the race. You will have lots of time there before the race starts. Now here's the bad news. For this year's race, more than 84,000 runners entered the drawing. Only about 12% were chosen. To earn a non-complimentary guaranteed entry to the 2025 New York City marathons, runners must, 1, they have to do everything on this list. 1, register for and complete 9 qualifying races. 2, volunteer at 1 qualifying opportunity. And 3, have an active New York Roadrunners membership as of December 31st, 2024. Good luck with your 2024 entry. I hope you get in. It sounds like a lot of fun. I'm not into crowds, so I probably would not do it. But if it's your goal and your dream to get into New York, I hope you do. Now, I have a few words to say about something that unfortunately came up last week. I hate to say it, but I told you so. Yeah, I was right. From the very beginning of UTMB's partnership with Ironman, I knew it would come to no good. Some folks were very optimistic and happy about it, saying, oh, this will be great. This is going to make so much more races and everyone's going to be happy. No, I was not optimistic. I kind of knew that they would start the cancellation of local races, that they would start bullying their way into the field. And it did happen this week. I don't know if you've been following what happened this past week, but I'll update you. Gary Robbins of Barkley fame, I'll post all his links there. Ultra racer and race director of Coastal Mountain Trail Running and race director of Wham Race, if you know what that is. But I'll post all his links, so you'll know who he is after this show. He posted a blog on his website talking about what happened to him because of UTMB. To put it bluntly, his Wham race, which is Whistler Alpine Mountain races, were canceled due to UTMB adding their races at Whistler instead. UTMB lied about working with Gary to present this race. They downright lied. They said that they had been working with him to present these races. Then they rescinded that comment, as they damn well better. That infuriates me. How dare they? How dare they? Oh, I dislike them more than I disliked them before, if that's possible. Read the entire post on Gary's blog. Like I said, the link to his blog will be on the website, martharunstheworld.com. It's a tale of two corporations working together to screw the little guy. It really is. And that's the crossroads ultrarunning is at. I'm going to do a whole episode on this shortly if I can find as much information to make a whole episode out of it, or I'll maybe make part of an episode and make half episode with part this and part something else. I'll figure it out. It's too important to skip over with this little opinion piece. I have to do something more. I really feel I do. You need to support local homegrown races. You have to pick a side. Pick a side. Do you support local homegrown races, or do you want to see more corporate races and less homegrown? Because you can't really support both. If you continue to go to UTMB races and you continue to support UTMB Ironman races, the little ones are going to disappear because UTMB is going to start chomping and eating up all these local races. They just are. The people who run UTMB probably don't even know that there are local races, or they don't care. And unfortunately, the runners who race these races maybe they're Ironmen, maybe they want to try trail running for the first time. I think a lot of the people who are doing these are beginners, and they don't know the first thing about trail etiquette. That's what I'm a little leery of, or a little afraid of. They don't know anything about, don't throw stuff on the ground like you do at Ironman races. Don't cause trail erosion by cheating on switchbacks, all kinds of things. Once corporations like UTMB and Spartan get involved in trail racing, all ethics go out the window. I remember a terrible ad that Spartan Trail Races had that was aired, showing trail racers doing exactly what they should not do, entering a river off trail, causing erosion all the way. It was just a horrible ad. It was like, this is what your races are like? You're going to destroy the erosion at a river. Yeah, I want no part of this. So, just for the moment, and like I said, I'll cover this more later, there will be zero coverage of UTMB, Ironman, or Spartan races from now on my show. I stand by my ethics and morals. I support local races and local race companies, and I will not have any coverage of any of those races here. That's just how it is. All right. Now, that is it today. So I hope all of you who are running New York next week, or this week actually when it comes up, I hope you have a wonderful race, and I hope the day is fabulous for you. I will be on my own race next Sunday, this Sunday, I should say. I have my Golden Gate half that I'm running on Sunday. Weather looks good now. They first said it was going to rain, but now they say no. So who knows? I don't know. They don't know. I think everyone's guessing. I think they're throwing up a quarter, rain or not. Oh, today, no rain. Okay. I think that's how they know. But that's going to be a fun race. It's going to be a good race. I'm looking forward to it. All right, so everything that you need will be on the website, martharunstheworld.com. If you want to email me, it's martharunstheworld@gmail.com. So that is it. And until next week, let's tie up our shoelaces and go for a run.